Today's episode of Getting Geeky with Game Relief, I sit down with Justin and Brian to talk all about their new game, the Everyone Shares One Butt game that's live on Kickstarter.
Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf, the podcast in which one man strives to level up his geekhood and helping you do the same, one battle at a time. Now, let's get geeky with Gamer Leaf.
There is a universe that exists where there's only one butt, the almighty butt, and everyone has been severed from all of their butts. And since there's only one butt, all of these contestants are connecting and extending their stomachs to get to it first. Whoever connects to it wins and will be a complete person, the winner of the whole game.
Did that sound familiar to you guys? It didn't to me either, but this is the story of the Everyone Shares One Butt game, and today we're lucky enough to have on the creators and masterminds behind this game. Is that correct? Is that how you guys fall in line with the Everyone Shares One Butt game, Justin and Brian?
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us on Getting Geeky with Gamer Leaf. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us so much.
Yeah, no problem at all. Now, before we jump into your game, let's rewind a little bit if we could. How did you guys get into playing tabletop board games? Maybe we'll start with you, Brian, and then you afterwards, Justin.
Yeah. So for me, it was basically just any time there was a family party or a party with a bunch of friends. One of the first things that we do is just pull up party games, party board games. It's like one of the first things that I played was Monopoly, of course, and something about a game that like forces everyone to work against each other for the sake of the game was always fun for me. And that kind of energy is what made me keep playing different kinds of tabletop games like that. Like One Night Werewolf, Mafia, or Coup, if anyone's have heard of that. So games like that is something that I've always liked to play.
Awesome. And what are you playing these days?
Right now, I guess in terms of tabletop gaming, it's more of the same stuff. Like I've always still played Coup. Games like Code Names as well. A lot of different games were just competitive nature.
Awesome. And what about yourself, Justin? How did you get into playing tabletop board games?
So I played a lot when I was a kid. It was like a typical like party pullout sort of thing. Though I played predominantly a lot of video games growing up, but especially in college when we invented this game, there were so many different events where if you just pulled out a board game, it would instantly like make the interactions and dynamics between people different. And depending on who was there at the time, there would be like hilarious reactions to how we were playing. And so the certain games I gravitated towards were ones that insisted on a lot of player interaction, a lot of like negotiation, a lot of infighting between people you would expect to really just, be together, but then they're just like at each other's throats like 10 minutes later. And so that's really what attracted me to it in a game design and also in an entertainment aspect.
Cool. Speaking of the games where you're going at each other, can you name a couple for us?
So I mean, classic one, I has to give a shout out to Uno. Uno, I think the premise of the game, just of it being cards and people like having all of these emotions towards how people are like screwing each other over is a huge inspiration for our game and sort of the types of interaction that I really like. And recently also, this might not be a direct inspiration to our game, but in college I got really into role-playing games. So Dungeons and Dragons was something that was getting a lot of popularity, and I finally got to try it out for the very first time a couple years ago. And something that insists on a lot of world building and character building was something that was very attractive, and I'm still like looking into and learning a lot from.
Awesome. So going back to the Uno, speaking of that, before I knew how big the hobby tabletop board game was, board game realm was I actually collected Uno cards a couple of weeks ago or a little bit ago. We were going through my box, and I have over 30 plus different editions of Uno.
Dang, yeah. That's that's really how it goes.
Yeah, so they're pretty fun. And what are you playing these days?
So I'm playing a lot of again I've gravitated a lot to independent video games, and there's a lot of actually like card building simulators, um, or a lot of video games that are centered on deck building mechanics. So I played a lot of Hearthstone. It was coming out, which was a Blizzard's Warcraft card fighting game, and then right now I'm playing a game called Slay the Spire on the Nintendo Switch, which is also a card building game, but like it requires so much thought because they're roguelike games, which means essentially when you fail like a certain single player campaign, you'll have to start the game all over again, which also I think is similar to the spirit of our game, where every single game is different because of all of the different cards and how they interact with each other.
Awesome. So Slay the Spire, what can you tell us about that? That sounds interesting.
So it's a dungeon crawling game, but the way that you fight enemies when you crawl through the rooms is you use cards as your attacks and your skill sets. And every time you go through the dungeons, you collect more and more cards. And so it's completely random. And so every single time you play, it'll be unique. And the types of ways that you can play are like infinite. And so that the thing that attracts me the most about it is like I am continually improving and learning how these cards interact with each other. And I've already beat the game, but I still want to see and uncover all the secrets and different cards that I haven't found yet.
Awesome. Do you remember how much that one cost for the Switch?
I think it's about is it $15, I want to say. I think so. Definitely like not above 20, like maybe 15 to 20, but I think it was $15.
Cool. I'll have to check it out. And word on the street is you guys have a new game on Kickstarter. What can you tell us about the Everyone Shares One Butt game?
Well, it's definitely been an adventure for us in a lot of different ways. But so the Everyone Shares One Butt game, as the lore description indicated earlier, is a game where you can play it with up to 4 players, and essentially you're one of 8 characters that are included in the game, and you start in a corner of the map, which is essentially just like a chessboard. I think it's 9x9. Is it like 9x9 tile?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's 9x9, and so right in the center of the board is a butt. So the gameplay in order to win is your point A in your corner is trying to connect to point B, which is point butt. And then the cards that you have in your hand are stomachs and items that you can use to connect and further your progress to connecting to the butt. So the way that you win is you connect to the butt and then all the other players lose. So it's either someone connects to the butt and they win, or you can't play any more cards and you're the last person standing. So it's a path building party game where there's a lot of interaction between other players.
Okay, awesome. It looks pretty cool and it sounds pretty fun. So, in designing it, was there ever anything you guys had to scrap because it just wouldn't work for the game?
Oh man, yeah, for sure. I mean, so like our background is not specifically in game design. I have a film background, and Brian has a background in speculative design, which is more the analytical, ethical understandings of art. So think about like, what would you say, architecture?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Architecture of the art world and sort of the mechanics and understandings of that. And so that being said, the way it started was very humbly, like just scraps of paper with drawing on pen. We didn't plan on, even at that point, we didn't plan on launching it on Kickstarter. But there was definitely a lot of tinkering that needed to do to make it more of the complex and in-depth game that it is today. Because even though there is a simplistic attract to it, like it's themed around butts, there's poop and fart jokes in it. It can get pretty deep and intense, and we have a range in which games typically last, like between a minimum of 20 minutes to we've had like hour plus games where people just didn't like budge, like insisted that they needed to keep the game going. And yeah, we needed to pad a lot of different mechanics in order to make sure that the game was as fun in that amount of time in between then.
Oh, wow. Yeah, look, so how did you guys come up with the idea then, if neither of you are game designers then?
So I was so flashback to college. We have our origin story drawn out on our Kickstarter, which is essentially we were all living together in an apartment in college, and I was really trying not to do my essays, as you do, trying to procrastinate, and I just wanted to do anything but that. So I was playing a lot of games, and there was a conversation happening between my roommates that was just like, oh, something about butts, and I don't know, something like in me was just kind of triggered. It's so hard to explain. Like I feel like the story changes every time, but I was just like, okay, well, butt game, like butt game. Like, is there a board game that's like about butts? And I was like, okay, if there was a game about butts, how could that work? Like, what if there's only one butt? Like, what if you're just like a character and you're just making a path to the butt? And then I just started cutting cards out on like loose leaf paper, and then we had like 10 or 20 cards to start out with, and then somehow we played that. Like that night we play tested it, and for the next couple of weeks we added more cards, we scrapped stuff, and that's how it started.
How did you do in your essay?
I don't remember. I really don't remember. Clearly, my priority was on the game. Like for that couple of weeks, I think I did fine. I didn't fail. I guess I would have remembered that, but I was spending my time in a much more important place.
There you go, awesome. And so, per se, we sat down to play. The three of us sat down to play the everyone shared one butt game. What's my turn going to look like here? What's the game consist of? What's it look like?
You want to cover this, Brian?
Sure, yeah. So basically, in the game, the first thing that happens is we each get a character and you place it in a corner of the board. Then we have a spinner that has the different colors of different of each side of the board, and when you spin the spinner, whatever color it lands on is the person who starts. And then from that person, it goes in a clockwise order. Then we would spin the spinner again, and depending on where it lands is where the butt will initially face. So that is where we have to connect to the butt. So after that, how the turn works is that everyone first draws 3 cards, and you play a card and do the effect of whatever it is, and then your turn ends. When you get back to your turn, you get to draw back up to 3 cards, so you'll always start with 3 cards, and the cycle starts over.
Okay. And what are some of the effects? I imagine you guys each have favorite effects in the game?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So when the game started, I actually found out about a game recently because I kept asking friends. I was like, "What? Do we have a game that's sort of like a path building game?" And then like maybe a couple weeks ago, I found out about Carcassonne, and so I was like, okay, like that's pretty cool, but like it couldn't just be a path building game, especially since we're just using cardinal directions of the card, like north, east, south, and west. So it couldn't just be like, okay, blank cards and connect, and then you connect. There had to be a little bit of like craziness involved. And so the very first card that like was like, whoa, this game could be like really crazy, was a card called Portal Potty. And so what it essentially does is you can create a portal that'll let you remotely take over someone else's stomach on the board, and you can start playing out of their path using that card. So that's one of my favorite effects because every single time that it's played in the game, it changes the dynamics between all the other players, because it looks like one player is getting greedy, and then all of the other players are like, that person is the one to go for. We got to screw over that person right now.
And one of my favorite cards or types of cards in the game are things that kind of can backfire, which I think is always hilarious. There's a card in mind that I like. Is called Stomach Ulcer. And basically what that card does is you choose a player, and that player can choose who to stun or whose turn to skip. And so a lot of times what could happen is you play that card, you choose another player to choose someone else, and they pick you. And so you basically doomed yourself because you picked someone who would have picked you. And just like that kind of interaction is always funny. And so cards like that, there's a lot of like different interactions like that in the game.
Oh boy, yeah, it sounds pretty fun. Now, with the game, is there? You said it can go for 20 minutes to an hour, or you guys refine that in the playtesting?
So yeah, we've done a lot of play testing for it already. It really depends on how many people can play because it's at minimum two people playing and up to 4. And so you can like there's definitely opportunities to win earlier, but a lot of players choose to continue the game up until like they like are just like, okay, I give up, and then it's just like a war of attrition from there. So it can be very simple, or it could be incredibly complex. And that's what I really enjoy about this game and other games, that it really poses itself to flexibility. And because the map, there's a suggested type of play where there's the butt in the middle and 4 players playing from the corners in. But we've had players like mod the game and place the butt on a different corner, or try to play with 5 players, or try to have a different goal, which is like to gain the most poops or toxins to get points. And so, like, I think that's where we're going to start to head and discuss more how we can make the game have a longer shelf life by having folks create their own scenarios for the game.
Yeah, and I think that huge variability of how much time it takes to finish a game is actually one of the charms of playing this game, because of the random, basically the roguelike aspect of it, where each card is a different draw, and there's a bunch of different ways that the cards can interact. Some games can go really quick, some games can go really long, and I think that's what's fun about this as well. There's always something different, and it makes the replayability that much more replayable, I guess.
Awesome. And is there any scientific backup to some of the cards?
So it's a joke that we do, and it's just like, yes, like sometimes we're setting up a play test, and someone has like 3 poops in their body, which end up turning into other cards. And I'm just like, wow, look at my body. And I was like, yeah, well, like, that's just like science, right? And then it's funny because, like, obviously, like, we have cards like Dragon Stomach or Holy Stomach, which are not based in any reality. But it's sort of like some of the cards have some scientific, anatomical, biological backing to them. But I'm just going to say mostly no. Mostly no. But as long as people are able to justify their choices and the narratives that they create between the conflicts they have between other players, then I think, go for it. If it's your science that's like making you have fun, then yeah, go for it.
There you go. What's been the longest body connecting to the one butt? Do you recall?
Oh man, so I think it was a game that I did. I took a photo. It's actually the one that's present on the Kickstarter right now. And we always take photos of the boards because they're always so variable. But the one that I included on the Kickstarter was the longest game by far, because it was the only game that I've played so far where the players used up every single card in the entire deck. And they snaked around, they went through each other's corners, they connected all their bodies up until the last player couldn't play anymore and their torso exploded. And so we almost filled every single part of the board. And that was the longest game. I think it was like almost an hour and like 20 minutes.
Oh, okay. Wow. So, yeah, it looks like a fun game, and like you said, replayability. Now, this isn't the first time on Kickstarter. What have you guys changed since the last try on Kickstarter?
Yeah, well, so that initial post, so what had happened was Kickstarter has this approval process, right? Well, when you send to approve it, there's about like a 24-hour or so period before we can actually post it live. But for some reason, when we submitted it, it went live immediately. And there was just a few things that we wanted to change and get ready before it actually started. Most of the content is the same, but I think maybe one of the largest things is that we realized that we needed a bigger budget. It's only by like 5,000, but that was enough to cover a lot of the expenses that we hadn't seen. So it was mostly stuff like that where we had to finalize how much we wanted to ask for, and like those things could not be changed once you were submitted. So unfortunately, we had to cancel the initial launch. It was a little premature, but now it's...
Yeah, I mean, essentially it was an accident. It was like we had the Kickstarter ready like maybe a week before and had been working on it. And we pressed the button to get it approved because we knew that there was that 30-hour approval process, and then it went live. Something happened with the site where like it had just gone live and we weren't supposed to. Like we were 5 days away from the launch. So that was the whole thing. It was just an accident, and we can't, according to Kickstarter, no projects get deleted. So that was the other unfortunate thing. We just had to copy paste all of the stuff that we had put on the project.
Oh, okay. That makes sense. Now, when it comes to the everyone shares one butt game, what makes you guys' this game pop and stand out as one my audience should go check out? And if they like what they see, back the Kickstarter today.
So what's really great, and I think that is really behind the scenes of our game, is that this game was really loved forward by a community. I love using that language because it's not, it wasn't supposed to ever be a game that we were planning on selling or distributing. It started with just one copy in a Ziploc bag. But because we had a friend believe in it, he was able to give us the initial funding to be able to produce prototype copies. And then we were able to work with an artist that we really love and lived with, named Banana Twinkie. That's his handle on Instagram and on Twitter. And he's pretty popular with his webcomics. And his style and his humor like totally fit with what sort of attitude and tone we were going with for the game. And so when we were able to see what all of the cards look like in a consistent fashion, and then when we were able to see what a prototype might look like, we were showing it to all our friends who have been playing for the past 2 years, and they're like, "Wow, this is a real game." And then that's such like a simple thing, but it's such a huge compliment and accomplishment for us personally, because like again, this was not supposed to be something that we were planning on doing, that we were formally trained in, but it became fun because like at the end of the day, when you're playing games with people you want to be around, when you have that downtime, when you are laughing and arguing over all of these little silly things about butts, then like it's amazing. And I mean, to more concretely answer that question, what makes it stand out, I mean, it's about butts. So like when I walk around in Target and I see I mean, I just walked there today and I see like Pandemic and all these great Kickstarter games, Cards Against Humanity. We have a black and white cartoonish looking game with characters all going after a butt. So that's where sort of we're trying to hit in a marketing angle and make it pop.
Yeah, there's no other games out there that go towards that genre, is there?
Nope, unless Carcassonne comes out with a butt themed expansion.
Yeah, actually, a few times when we were playtesting, we were actually at Gateway 2019.
Yesterday.
Yesterday. And like one of the compliments that we got from the playtesters that they've never played a game quite like our game. That this is like a unique mechanic of, shaping your body towards the butt, which each card doing a different effect. And so that was really nice to hear.
Right, and just to add a little bit, like there's so many Kickstarter games that came out that were following the model, at least gameplay wise, of Cards Against Humanity, which was also following in the footsteps of Apples to Apples. And so from like the amount of games that we've played and have seen on Kickstarter, our game is a card game and a board game, but it doesn't require sort of needing to tell jokes. It's not one of those games. It's a game that there is a lot of interaction with, and then the jokes happen organically. Like it's like people are just saying, "I'm gonna kick your butt," or it's like, "Oh my god, you gave me a poop," and then it's just like these natural eruptions of laughter when people are coming by, walking and spectating. Like, what is this butt game? So it's a real curiosity, which I think it also helps it stick out.
Awesome. Yeah, and I was just scrolling through the Kickstarter. I love the art, and it just sounds like a pretty fun game. Looking at some of the cards and whatnot. Yeah, no problem. And we'll make sure we leave all the links in the show notes so they can go ahead and click on over. But mine is coming there to your hometown to stalk you. How can people go about keeping up with you and everything you have going on with the Everyone Shared One Butt game?
All right. Well, so we're currently having our Kickstarter campaign right now. We're about like maybe 10 days in, something like that. We're right in the middle of it, and way that you can support us is if you're interested in the game, we have a bunch of pledge options that we would love to have you join us up with. We have a $10 tier for like a thank you supporter tier, but to get the base game, it's $35, and then we have a bunch of different add-ons that are Kickstarter exclusives, which include exclusive cards based on characters our artist Banana Twinkie has done, and getting your own custom character printed so that you can play as yourself or someone else or an object even when you get your copy of the game. Other than that, you can find out more on our website. We have videos coming. We have more videos coming out, which is a fun little announcement that we're planning on a marketing angle. We have our YouTube, Everyone Shares One Butt Game. We have our Twitter at The Butt Game. We have our Instagram, Everyone Shares One Butt Game. Like if you just Google the Everyone Shares One Butt Game, we're on all the little big social media sites. So that's where you can find us, keep updated. card updates. And we're also, this will be kind of good, we're doing something called the Squat Up Challenge, which however many backers that we get, we'll be doing a Twitch live stream and doing that many squats. And while answering Q&As, we're having a Q&A at the same time. So that'll be every Tuesday at 7 p.m. if anyone wants to tune in. That's a way to get involved on the community angle. And we're also having live events in the SoCal area, Southern California area, through the rest of the campaign.
So the more backers, the better for your squat challenge?
Yep. The more backers, the better. Like if the way that we've set it up has been, if we reach 50 from Tuesday to Tuesday, we will double the amount of squats per pledges. And if we reach 100 per week, we'll triple all of the squats. So if you really want to watch us like suffer for the sake of our Kickstarter, you can totally do that.
And yeah, you can watch us at twitch.tv/everyone-shares-one-butt-game.
Well, there you go. And if you get me those links, I'll make sure I share them on the episode show notes so people can click on over. Now, speaking of keeping up with you, I know right now we're focused on getting the Everyone Shared One Butt game funded and Kickstarter and delivered and stuff. But somebody's listening later on down the road after you've delivered and everything. Is there any secrets in your back pocket of stuff you might be working on in the future?
So there's that small dream, where if you've made a game, like, what can I do to add on to it? And because we've always talked about the flexibility of the game, we would love to do like an expansion pack and like new cards, new characters, new theming, maybe incorporate some of that lore that could be like pulled out and taken in from all of the different cards. And like, we'd love to create more content for it because even we have had so much fun with this game. And we know that certain things need to be tweaked, need to be fixed before we finally do the last launch. But we're already starting to have ideas about where this can go and other events and locations we can possibly be present as.
Oh, okay, awesome. So right now, let's help make it become a reality by backing the Everyone Shared One Butt game before Wednesday, the 25th of September. And like I said, we'll make sure we leave all the links in the show notes. We don't want to keep you guys all night, but we really appreciate you coming on, getting geeky with Game Relief with us to talk all about the Everyone Shared One Butt game. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, well, we appreciate you having us.
Yeah, thank
Game
you very
Relief,
much.
thank you so much. It's such a great show, and we love what you're doing, representing all of these board game designers and all the things that they have to offer. So thank you for your time as well.
Awesome, I appreciate it. Wow, after sitting down with them, now I really need to get that game, especially to add to my non-collection of games about the buttocks or competing to be able to make the best path towards the one buttocks that's only available in the world. If you liked any of the games we talked about in today's episode, make sure you check out their Kickstarter campaigns to show them and us a little love. Backing them goes a long way. Plus, make sure to stay up to date on all the giveaways we're doing over at thegiveawaygeek.com. There will be at least 2 to 3 new giveaways going live over there next week. It's our least favorite time as well as yours. So until next episode, make sure you go ahead and get geeky, stay geeky, and bring others in the geek fold by sharing our episodes with others, as well as keeping up with the giveaways we're doing over at thegiveawaygeek.com. Game Relief out.
Gamer Leaf levels up. Tune in next week to see if Gamer Leaf's luck holds up.